Of course, we were affected some with World War II. I wasn't drafted. Our operation was big enough that they figured somebody had to stay home and raise feed for the. It was kind of difficult sometimes because you were a young person and other people was being drafted, and why aren't you? We moved here in 42. The reason that we moved here was the landlord that we had been renting from for 17 years sold the farm unbeknown to us, which he had always said that he wouldn't do. So the realtor began to show us different places, but we were really interested. After all, I was 19 and we needed to start thinking of a long term. Well, before my parents and I had been in the turkey growing business, and we processed and done the whole works. So we needed to have something that could house it. The reason that we ended up going out of the turkey business was grocery stores making it very difficult when they would give discounts for, if you bought enough groceries, they'd give you a turkey. Well, we couldn't compete with giving our birds away.
I've always had middle management pants. So, Glenn Preston, I was born September 21st, 1953. Had 3 older brothers. My grandparents had a dairy farm that now was expanded over the years. I never really dreamt of doing anything different than farming. My counselor at Michigan State said there was a shortage of ag teachers, thought I'd be a good ag teacher, and maybe I should change majors. And I was kind of insulted, thought I was going to be a dairy farmer. My grandparents were out of the business as just a sole proprietor with my father, and we were milking probably 40 cows, and we expanded to 100 cows and bought more ground. We've always been livestock farmers. We've had a few pigs, but we really specialized in the dairy farming because that was my interest, my passion. And then Susie and I were married in July of 1975. Mom and Dad moved to where my grandparents had lived, and we raised our family right here. So theoretically, I guess I've lived in this house for 66 years. So how did the technology change? So back in the 70s, obviously pre-computers, with cows you have to record their breedings and when they're going to calve, and a lot of paper. It was all done longhand on charts, and then they had a wheel, which was a dairy herd manager that you moved every day, and you had little stickers that indicated a cow, and it was a visual that you could look at, but it was all hand calculated. Our financial records were all done longhand. Our 1040Fs were done longhand. We had an accountant, but I think probably our first computer would have been in the mid-1990s, and we did ration balancing with that and financial bookkeeping. But it's evolved now to the point where the cows have got what we call Fitbits for cows, the ear tags that track their health status and their rumination and their temperature and their estrus cycles. I mean, it's high tech, and then all the financials are done with the computer. The corn is planted with a tractor that has a GPS and shoots those rows in straights and arrow, and it's even when the corners come up jagged, it'll shut each unit off. There's 16 units, so there's no overplant. It's almost overkill, but it's pretty cool. No, I've heard old timers say the good old days. There was nothing good about the good old days. Well, the way the business evolved, it used to be my brother, you or me, brother, had to do it. Now we're fortunate enough to have each of us have a son in the business that are smarter than we ever were, and they've really gravitated to the management. And we've got 14 co-workers that help us milk our 1,000 cows, and I guess we're farming close to 2,000 acres, and so it's nice to have a crew of people go at things opposed to, being totally. For 40 years, I knew 4 in the morning and 4 at night. I was in a milking parlor. It's not that way anymore. Okay, so a normal day. What works well for me, I get up a little before 3 and get out at the barn at 3 in the morning, and the night crew. We have 2 shifts, the 4 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon to 3 in the morning, that are specifically milking cows only. 3 guys per shift, 4 on a group, so that they work 6 days, have 2 days off, work 6 days. And I go out at 3 o'clock and make sure that there hasn't been any problems throughout the night, and say sayonara, see you later, and check calving pens, make sure all the equipment is washing properly, making sure all the equipment is going. And I like to say I'm Adam's eyes before he gets there. I check cows and push up feed, and usually by 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, I can come back and eat breakfast and rest a little while and then go back later. And whatever we're doing, I'm kind of the guy that does the odd jobs and runs after parts, puts out fires. And Adam specifies in the cows. Brian and I work on the financial, and Keith does a lot of the feeding. And our theory has always been if everybody pitches in, gets everything done, then everybody's done a little bit earlier. And I don't know when that's ever going to change. I'm really kind of content with it, but I'm pretty serious about being done at night too. So triple digits. Got to be in bed before 9:59. Back to the question. Do I think there's too many farmers? I don't, we don't have, everybody talks about corporate farming, and that's such a small percentage, because I don't know how you have a corporation managing a business that's so passion driven. I mean, you've got to be boots on the ground, take care of that cow, that calf. You can't, it's not an 8 to 5 job. I mean, this is 365. And so that takes families, and families are passionate about what they do. They have pride in their businesses. I don't know that we'll ever consolidate to the point where there'll be a monopoly of people say we're going to control the market and drive up food prices. Farmers, they want to produce, and they'll produce before they'll make a profit because of the satisfaction of growing something. I think the synergies we have here is the multiple generations of management plus the diversity of the land base in and the livestock, the two different little fertilizer factories complement each other pretty well. Market our milk through a co-op, and the co-op just happens to be Michigan Milk Producers Association. So a lot of the fluid milk went to Detroit. You know, there used to be 3.5, 4 million people in Detroit, and there are not that many anymore. And so that was there's different price structures for milk. Class 1 utilization is fluid, and then there's Class 2, 3, and 4, 3 being cheese. In the cheese market, over 50% of the milk now goes to cheese, advent of pizza consumption, and so that's been a big change in the end product. But our milk has always gone to the co-op, and the co-op has their motto is milking our members' milk to the best of its advantage, which, you know, we've got a lot of money invested in that co-op, so I sure hope they do, and it's worked. In this last year with surplus milk in Michigan, Michigan being a peninsula, couldn't bring milk in from other states, and when we had a high fluid market, that was really good. But now we're shipping milk to Canton, Ohio, to the southeast, and all those freight charges are really expensive to our co-op. So the Class 3 utilization is where milk is priced, and we used to have a positive basis, and it would be $1.50. 100 weight, and we've been as much as $2 under that. So it's been a really tough. If you haven't expanded in the dairy industry and kept up with having a feed supply and technology in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of dairies that have gone out of business, and some of them not very graciously. To be a viable business, you've got to have some size and scale, and I think we've kind of hit a sweet spot for where we're at now, I hope. But we've continued to grow. We bought a farm this spring to house heifers, and we're always going to grow. I don't see that stopping. This is a long ways from a terminal business. And our goal is to provide an opportunity for the next generation, whether they want a farm or not. It's not exactly indentured servitude, but gives them an opportunity, and if they do, great. If they don't, so be it. But Keith and I feel pretty comfortable that we've succeeded in providing that opportunity, and the next generation has taken it and flown with it, and so far so good. As I think back of times of overproduction, that we've had overproduction, the government's always come in and tried to fix the problem, whether it was the dairy termination problem where they would pay producers to limit milk production, and then there would be a tremendous swing in the market. We don't have that. The government doesn't get involved in that part as much, but they are very active in subsidizing crop insurance as far as the premiums that are paid for crop insurance, various marketing things. And, you know, what's Congress's thought behind all this is they want to make sure there's a plentiful food supply and to preserve ground for agriculture, not having it converted to urban uses, because once it's converted for perpetuity. The government's always tried to do some kind of price structuring, either encouragement or control. But, you know, going forward, farmers encourage. We like to say we're free marketers and stuff, but are not. It doesn't take long for us to say, well, these are decisions the politicians made. Now we need compensation because we need a safety net.